Hi, it's Glenn McQueenie, and welcome to my 25-minute Success Series podcast. Today, I'm a little jacked up and excited because I get to talk to Nickey Calford from Keller Williams Lifestyle Realty in beautiful London, Ontario. So, hi, Nickey. How are you doing?
Good. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me on the call. I'm really excited to talk to you today. So I want to just if you can maybe just give the listeners a little bit of a background on you, like when you kind of got in, like how long you've been in real estate, so we can kind of just set the context before we start really, digging deep and figuring out what the best kind of niche market strategy is, so you can just deal with really perfect fit clients or ideal fit clients all the time. And what I find when people do that is it just makes the business a lot funner. It's a lot easier to do. It's a lot more lucrative. So just give us a little bit of background there, Nickey.
Okay, so I started when I was 21 flipping houses and have done 18 houses since. So that's how I started in the real estate industry. I then started staging homes as well, and then decided, you know what, I love real estate and this is where I want my career to be, and got my license approximately 15 months ago. So I've been going strong ever since.
Wow. So it's kind of fascinating to me that you were kind of on the other side, right? You were almost on the buyer seller side of this industry. It's pretty cool that you started when you're 21, flipping your first home, and then eventually flipped a whole bunch of them. So what was that transition for you? Like, what was it that kind of said, you know what, I want to go and get my license now because I want to go? Was it because you just want to go and help more people do it, or what was the kind of thinking behind that?
I think I learned at a really young age that real estate investing is probably one of the best and easiest ways to make money. I think I had a little bit more control in my money. I wasn't really savvy on the stock market or anything else, but I could see what happened when I renovated a house and was smart with my money. So I think knowing that, I would love to, help other people find that niche and see that too. And it's kind of changed from being hands-on renovations to looking at different vehicles of investment through real estate.
Wow. And then I think you just recently, because you were actually already, like, you were working a full-time job while you were kind of doing this. And then I think just recently you kind of said, like, okay, I'm all in, walking away from the full-time job, going all in because you're really passionate about this. So where where are you now? Like, who's your perfect client right now? If we had to paint a picture of who your perfect prospect is, or what part of the London, Ontario market, investment property market, do you really want to get into and really dominate?
So I think for me, the perfect client would be one that's fairly new to investing, has had that aha moment that they can make money through real estate. They've seen their friends or family go through that, and they really want to start in on it. And they're excited to learn more about how they go about doing that and want to build on that. So do more than one property um, eventually and build like a mini empire for themselves. So I think that would be the absolute perfect client for me. And I can see a lot of right now with new builds, the way they're going, and the London market being as hot as it is, the best vehicle right now that I see for my clients is the new build market. So buying in and renting it out at a decent price and then seeing the appreciation grow.
Right. And is in your market, can someone like buy a place and by renting it out get close to cash flow positive, or is it just slightly below, or where's the kind of rents to value right now in London?
Well, they're definitely cash flowing positive. One thing I make sure is before we go in and buy something that it is definitely covering its costs. and it's not a loss leader just to get the appreciation at the end. So that's kind of the goal. When anytime I look at an investment, it wants to definitely cover itself and then be appreciation positive.
Yeah, and I think that's a real first of all, I think that's great advice, and I think it's a great insight because a lot of people are playing the capital appreciation game, and if you really look at wealth long term through investment properties, I think when you're just betting on the capital appreciation, I think you're becoming a speculator compared to if you're playing the cash flow game, which is I'm going to get these properties to cover on a cash flow basis and be able to kind of generate it, even if it's a couple $100 a month, that I can build into a reserve. If there's going to be any like future repairs coming up, and I'm still getting them to pay down my mortgage. If you ever look, like it really seems to me like a perfect niche in London. Well, I think it's in any market would be just to really go after the buy and hold investors who just want to build wealth over a long period of time instead of that short-term focus.
Hmm. I think I mean, that's what we're seeing a lot of here in London. We've had a very stable market for a long time. So this new bump up in the market in the last, probably 12 months that's been building has been something we haven't seen that often here in London. We've had a fairly steady increase, but having that rental income that is holding itself and going forward has always been a positive thing for me, and it's helped grow my investments.
Right. Okay. So, who is your target market right now? Like, what's like just paint a picture of what age would they be? What's their biggest problem? Like, what's keeping them up at night? Because I find like if you really want to market into a niche, you have to almost reverse engineer it. You have to plan it from the customer's point of view, not from like what we think they need. Like it's just, oh, they need another just listed card or another just sold, or they need me to door knock on them. Like, what is your perfect client? Like, where are they now and where do they want to go? And what's their biggest fears, dreams, aspirations?
I think clients that are probably 35 to 40 that have had a couple kids that are worried about how they're going to pay for university, weddings, that sort of thing that are coming up in 10 to 15 years. I think when you get them when they're first married, first have babies, that sort of thing, their mind is elsewhere on, how to pay for daycare and that sort of thing. But I think once the kids start to get a little bit more independent, they don't have the daycare costs overhanging their monthly bills, they tend to want to look at something else, either, going towards a cottage property or looking at investments. And I think if we can steer them into the investment that will pay them back, and when that child goes to university or has a wedding coming up, that they can sell it and pay off that wedding or university cost would be an awesome feeling.
Mhm. Well, it's such a winning formula, and I know, many people who, they found the right agent at the right time who basically said to them, if you buy these two condos for your kids now when they're under 5, by the time they get to university, these condos are going to be completely paid off, and you're going to have a education fund ready for them if they want to go to school. If not, you've got like a great source of wealth for you, or if you want to help them buy their first house. Like I think it's such a kind of winning formula what you're kind of proposing.
Hmm. That was my
Okay,
goal when
so
I had my daughter.
yeah, so what's keeping them awake at night right now? What do you think their biggest? So we know what their kind of goal is, and we know that we can build that financial funnel. But what do you think their fear about taking the first step in this process is?
I think, can they afford it? Will it cover itself? And how do they get a down payment? I think are the main fears right now. I think they think it's a great idea if it works out, but how do they get past those hurdles?
Right. Okay. So when they say that to you, like, do you talk about like on the down payment, the last one? Do you talk about like either refinancing their house, or how do you handle those kind of fears when you're talking to them?
Well, in this marketplace, refinancing their home is a viable option. A lot of them have seen fairly decent appreciation, and so that's a great option. But there's other ways to budget as well when that's, if they've just bought that house a year ago and they don't have a whole lot of appreciation yet. There's other ways to work with them to build in budgets, and whether it's taking away one Tim Hortons coffee every day and putting it in a fund. After a year, you have enough to buy a down payment, right? So it's breaking down the little things and showing them that it is possible. You don't have to make tons of money to save enough for the down payment.
Right. So I wonder if there's maybe some type of like special report or a blog post or something that you could talk about, because I love the Tim Hortons, the No Tim Hortons daily wealth building fund or something, where you can
Oh
have like a
boy.
pretty compelling headline, and then just tell the story that if you just didn't have a Tim Hortons every day, or you could save twice as much if you didn't have a Starbucks every day. Um,
Right.
that would be like that's a kind of a really cool way to almost lead generate for these, is to go right after like their basic their basic knowledge almost, because most people don't know that. Like, it's not that they need to make more money right now. It's just that they need to really just maybe redirect some of that money, and instead of thinking on a short-term basis, um, is think more like a long-term wealth accumulation strategy. Because I think if you could start targeting people with, whether it be a blog, or, because I mean, what's the challenge? Is it filling up seminars? Like, you've done a seminar before?
Yeah, we've done a couple seminars, and it is a bit of a challenge to get people there. We are getting the right people, which I believe, but numbers is kind of the game in real estate, and it's it's learning that. So a blog or something that funneled them into that would help as well, I think.
Hmm. Like, if you think about it, there's a conveyor belt, right? That, like, everyone has to go on the conveyor belt, before, like, the last stop of the conveyor belt is them buying a house and closing on it, right? And for an agent, that's when we get paid at the very end. So a lot of agents, or even they will want the end already. Like, I just want to buy an income property, but there's a bunch of really predictable steps that I wonder if we just broke down your lead generation into individual, almost stations, like almost like if you imagine like an assembly line of a car. It's like, okay, here comes the chassis, and then, oh, here comes the wheels, oh, there goes the engine, there goes the glass in, and then it gets driven off. Like, you don't just have a car. Everything has to be broken down into very sequential, and if you almost have to get to first base before you get to second base before you get to third base. So I wonder if we just broke down the transaction a little bit more and then targeted all of our efforts to filling each base at a time. So, like, the way you get a full seminar is usually by marketing, and the way you market is by getting the right message. And a full seminar is just the end result of having the right message and the right marketing, hitting the right target market in order to fill up the seminar. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wonder if you were to almost create something like the London Wealth Club, or something that was just so clear to a consumer that they knew exactly that this club is about building wealth, right? And if you almost created like a Facebook page called the London Wealth Club and started posting on there, it would make it like a business page. Post it like, here's a story about how if you just didn't go to Tim Hortons, you could easily, with the money that you save within 2 years, you could buy your first income property. Here's a story of some other client that you've just helped, who didn't think they were able to buy an income property, but you sat down with them and you showed them that they could actually, with the appreciation in real estate prices, they could increase, like they could almost increase their mortgage by $50,000. And instead of that $50,000 being a cost, and some people would do that on their line of credit to go buy a car, which is really stupid, but that 50,000, if they put it as a down payment on an income property, that the rental income they were getting from that investment would be paying down the $50,000, you know, um, line of credit or increase in their mortgage. Like, does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's
So,
just getting that funnel started, right?
yeah, so it all starts with, well, first of all, we have to get our target, and it has to be so clear that someone would sit there and the moment they see what you're doing, they go, "Oh, I know what it is," right? Like there's a girl out in BC who I'm coaching, and her group is called "A Man Is Not Your Financial Plan." Like there couldn't be anything clearer about that title, right? Like you know exactly what she's talking about. You know exactly what her target is. And I wonder if there's something where we could do where, and maybe London Wealth Club is too general, like in your perfect world, in your perfect client, because this is what I think people have to listen to on this call and also understand is it's not increasing the wealth of everyone in London. It's there's going to be inside there a micro market of people that are totally underserved right now. So, who would your dream come true, um, client would be? Would it be the one that you mentioned earlier in the call, which is I want to help young families with young kids save up and have enough money to send their kids to school and be financially free?
I think that would be almost the perfect client. Maybe it's someone that I helped buy a first time home and now they're moving into these investment properties, and be that expert in that investment property switch on how to get there.
So could you do like Mums Building Wealth London Club or something, or like something where we can incorporate the mum, the London, the wealth, and the club, so that people know, like it's almost like it's like the monthly meetup, go and have some wine, talk about building wealth, club.
Yep, we could.
Okay.
Trying to
So
think
are
of
you in that?
wording, but yes.
Yeah, like are you in that world? Like, do you know a lot of mums with young kids who are thinking about building wealth?
I think I could know a lot. There's different areas I haven't been a part of, but could get in there. Just been focused on other things, but
Right.
yeah,
Well, I mean, see the great thing about these calls is we're just exploring, right? Like we're just trying to figure out what resonates with you enough where you sit there and go, "Oh yeah, like I love this. This is I know these people or I know that group or they're my people or whatever," because that's the whole secret to finding your niche is just find your own tribe of people, and what you're really looking for is you. Like you're looking for another Nickey Calford. You're looking for another person who wants to build wealth and build a brighter future for their family. And the more you can just be projecting that at every step of the way, every interaction with the client, when you're meeting some mom with kids, they're like, "Oh, how's real estate?" And you start talking automatically about how you just helped someone just like them buy their first investment property and they never thought they'd ever be able to afford it and they were able to do it and it cash flows $300 a month positive, which they're taking that money right now and putting it into the kids um, or the RESP, and so they're not only building their own wealth but they're building their kids' wealth. Like this is the winning formula marketing that people will start running to you. And that's what this whole the Queenie Method book's about. It's what all these calls are about is how do we get people running to you instead of you chasing after people who don't like, trust, or respect realtors. You know?
yeah.
So what do you think the next step would be?
I I think finding where people like me like to hang out, and it's not at the real estate office.
Right. Right. It could be mummy's clubs, right? It could
Yeah.
be, you can actually do this right. You can direct it perfectly through Facebook targeted advertising. You could just do female, this age group in this postal code in London, and only they will get your ads on their feed. And it's very reasonable. Like I think that might be a good way to do it. Like I would almost do like a create your Facebook fan page and or business page, and then that content, I would be boosting it out to your target market, while you're also out there talking to a bunch of people. And I would be
Right.
direct them all towards your seminar. And you said you've already done a couple, but this is the whole deal is like, how can we get a predictable number of, say, 10 or 15 people coming out every single month to your seminar? Because we know about 30% of them are probably going to do something, 30 to 40%. So if you could book 3 to 5 appointments every single month just from this seminar series, and you start building them up, like that's almost 60 appointments in a year, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at the math on that, if you had 60 new customers in a year, because everyone's like, it's a bell curve of like, yeah, I'm going to do something now, or I'm going to do something in 9 months or 18 months. I think that you would probably be able to do 20 to 25 transactions quite easily just from those 60 people, but then you're building your pipeline of 35 transactions the next year.
Right. I think the one thing that really resonated with me from your book is that lead generation isn't just calling, it isn't door knocking. It can be, but going out and finding the people that you are in your tribe and getting that lead generation. So if it's Facebook marketing to the people that are just like me, that want to build wealth for their kids' education, then that's where you go, and people eventually start coming to you opposed to chasing them. So I finding those groups and getting out of my, you know, set mindset that I have to come into the office, I have to call, I have to do that. Well, part of my lead generation is going out and being me and learning from the people around me that like doing things and have the real conversations about real estate, and then they start to come and follow and want to do the stuff that we're teaching at the seminars.
Right. Yeah, it all starts with you going first, right? Like it's so interesting. So many agents won't do anything unless they have this absolutely predictable outcome, which we know is kind of like a myth in real estate, right? But what if you were to, over the next 30 days, just every time, because you're going to grow into the conversations you have, right, with people, and you'll attract those. But what if every time you were out socially, you started talking about that you were thinking about forming this group, and what would they like to see within that group? And then just give them exactly what they tell you, right? It's called polling your check writers. You actually don't go and ask your friends what they think. You ask the people who would actually do this what they really want, and then they give you the market research back, and then you just deliver it right back to them. And I think on this Facebook page or whatever your content marketing strategy is going to be, is I would be featuring properties that help. This is like the headline. This one's perfect for paying for your kids' education over the next 15 years. And look, this beautiful bungalow in this area has this income, and it's got this, and it's in great shape, and like those are the kind of things that people go, oh, like I didn't know that. Like, oh, I didn't know that. I did. Oh, that property would cash flow, or oh, so I can actually do this. And hold on, let me get this straight, Nickey. And so I can buy this property, and in 5 years, I can have it. Um, that down payment that I like 100% financed it because I increased my mortgage by 25 or 50,000, but in 5 years I was able to retire that debt, right, and build up more equity in that property. And I'm sure, Nikki, because I know you've probably done this, is then you refinance that property and buy your next property, right? It's you
Yep.
only need to start with one, and then when you
Yeah.
get one and just manage it right, then you can move on, right?
Yeah.
And those are the stories you
I
start to
love that
tell.
idea. I love being able to show people that it's possible, right? So I think it's the right niche for me. It's just getting the right people and lead generation.
Right. Well, could you do what I'm doing right now? I mean, could you call an interview and just bring a digital recorder, um, or record off your phone? We can all do that. But couldn't you meet up with them and in 10 minutes just say, hey, listen, um, I want you to just share your experience of what it was like, where you were. You were so worried that you wouldn't be able to buy an investment property, to buying your first one, to now you've got two. And what would you tell other people listening? And this would all be on your Facebook page, about what it would be like for them to do it. Because I think the more third party testimonial you get of people going, I was afraid, I didn't think I could do it. I was able to find my first one. Nickey helped me do it, and it was so amazing. And I thought I'd be such a nightmare being a landlord, but it turned out to be really great. And now I've bought my second and third one, and now I've been able to, quit my full-time job and spend more time with the kids. These are the stories that build your tribe in London as you're building like the Mums Wealth Builder Club in London.
Yeah, I think I have some phone calls to make this afternoon. It's a great
There you
idea,
go.
Glenn.
Well, that's it. Like I always think it's just all about, looking what your market wants and then just giving it to them. Like to me, I think this should be called the natural way to do real estate. There's no tricks. There's nothing. There's nothing underhanded. It's just like, oh, what is my market? Where's the gap in my marketplace? Is there anyone filling that spot? Can I go into that spot and fill it? And I know you've already done some seminars, and what people might listening don't know is I think even recently you partnered up with another agent from my office in Toronto, Michelle, and I think she brought like a busload of women building wealth investors down to London. Can you just tell that story quickly?
Yeah, so we've done a couple seminars, one here in London and one in Toronto at your office. And so we brought 9 people down, rented a big van, took them around, showed them a very specific property that we had that were on the go right now, different projects that would cash flow for them, as well as look at appreciation. And they were closing within this year, so that would start fairly quickly. So we took them around and gave them a tour, and at the end of the day, it was an extremely rewarding feeling. They were thrilled about what they learned about London, having the tour, being able to, not just show them on the internet what's here and go see specific builds and on an individual basis. As we drove through town, we gave the tour, told them where the universities, the hospitals, the parks, the outdoor concerts were, and showed them so they had an idea of what they were buying in the area and what kind of tenants they would have, and got to actually see the area. So by the end of the day, 4 of them had gone back to meet with mortgage brokers and set things up to come purchase properties here. So
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just totally cut you off there. Sorry. I'm just, as I'm listening to you and I can hear the passion in your voice, I'm like, well, there's your second niche market, right? Your second niche market is, and I'd love for you to give out your contact information for people who might want to be bringing busloads of investors down to London, and they can partner up with you, and you can give them all the inside scoop and tell them where to go, and here's the best place, and don't buy on that block, and this block's better. I think you can almost like even be coming to Toronto once a month and doing seminars not only for buyers here but for agents here in Toronto who are got a bunch of investor clients and they need the local ground, like just that local knowledge, boots on the ground in London. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting for you, Nickey.
Well, I'm pretty excited about it. So it's been fun, and you get to learn a lot about your niche when you go really, really deep into it, and then that just really helps you become that expert even more. So
Well, it increases your value too, and your perceived value to the consumer, and that's why they start running to you, which I think is so amazing. So, okay, Nickey, we're just going to wrap up, but can you give anyone listening, if they want to come in contact with you, can you just give me your phone number and your, I guess, your email address, and then if they want to reach out, it's great. And so go ahead.
Yeah, so you can call me at 519-636-5097. And my email address is Nickey, Nickey, Calford, Calford, at kw.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nickey. It was so great having you, and thanks for being a guest. And I'm so excited just to watch you become the big wealth building empire builder for everyone in London, so that their kids can have that great future. And yet, at the end of the day, that's what parents want for their kids, right? It's just to provide a better life so they didn't have to struggle as much. And I think you're really going to be helping a lot of people achieve that. So thanks a million for joining us today.
Thanks, Glenn.